So it's been a little while since I've made a video, and I think I started trying to do reviews a couple years ago, and it turned into me just not having much interest in that. But now, I watch other YouTubers from time to time, and of course I have opinions on most of what they say or do. And yeah, I thought this was a very interesting video. I watched it, added it to my watch later list to make sure that I remembered to come back and talk about it. And here we are. So, Android Authority, the title of this video is Apple has failed at USB-C, just like everyone else. And I think this is a very interesting take. So let's watch it together and see what he has to say.
USB-C has been a great change for the iPhone and for Apple in general. If you mix and match your devices, not having to lunge around a lightning cable just to charge your phone, especially when traveling, is a major win in pretty much any way you look at this. However, Apple had a great opportunity to go above and beyond and disrupt the already kind of established USB-C market, and they didn't do much better than any Android manufacturer, and honestly, they did substantially worse than already Android was doing.
And of course, we're going to see what he has to say, and I've been a huge proponent of USB-C. For the iPhone users who may or may not be watching this video, it's, we're 2 years into USB-C from their perspective, and it's like, no, USB-C has been around for a while. And in fact, the first MacBook to have USB-C on it, I believe, came out in 2015, so a decade ago. And I don't know what the first smartphone to have a USB-C port on it was, but I know from my experience, my Sony Xperia X Compact was my first USB-C phone, and I got that back in 2016. So it's been around for a while. In terms of doing anything revolutionary, I have a few thoughts, but as he speaks, I'll definitely give my 2 cents, and I feel like he's overhyping what USB-C is. Granted, ton of good and cool things, but at the same time, for smartphone use, I'm just like, do we really need as much as what he's probably going to say?
There's no doubt that Apple moving every single device to USB-C has been a net positive for everyone. But at the same time, it's just surprisingly confusing to understand which devices support which kind of USB-C. Like, for example, if you have a regular iPhone, somehow, in their infinite wisdom, Apple has pretty much just said, you know what, USB 2.0 speeds for transferring files are plenty, 480 megabits a second, that's good enough for the regular iPhones. And you know what, charging, they have big batteries and they have decent battery life, so what about 20 watts?
Alright, so I'll stop him right there. And the first thing I'll say, and this is, again, I'm so happy that I was watching Front Page Tech. Haven't seen much of his stuff lately. Don't know if he's uploading as much as he used to, but he pointed out that Lightning was capable of data transfer speeds at USB 3 speeds. So switching from Lightning to USB-C doesn't really have an impact on whether or not the device can operate at USB 2 or USB 3 speeds. But as we all know, the iPhone, up until the iPhone 15 Pro, has always operated at USB 2 speeds. It was, I think, the first or second, probably first iPad Pro that operated at USB 3 speeds over Lightning. So it's, good to point it out here in 2025 that, the iPhone still operates at USB 2 speeds, but nobody was complaining about that for the last decade, really. And granted, this is Android Authority, not Mac or whatever, but it's still just, hey, it's good to have the full picture. And one thing that I will also bring into this video is this gentleman right here. Like, I always talk about his stuff. And again, as he's approaching 20 million subscribers, what he's about to say, and hopefully I'll cut it appropriately so that it makes sense, is that, he, like plenty of other people, just give Apple a pass, the Android Authority video, not giving the company a pass, but not recognizing that it's been a problem for over a decade, and now it's, because the physical port has changed, we should expect other things. No, because nobody's cared for the longest time. So let's just see what Marques says, and then we'll come back.
Are giving you great battery life. Also, USB-C is definitely not new, but here it is, alongside all the benefits that come with it, from using the same cable to charge everything, to plugging into more accessories like monitors and keyboards and all kinds of other stuff. It is sad that the older chip does mean there's no USB 3 controller, so there are no USB 3 data speeds. It's still slow, but honestly, unless you're using the Pro iPhone's camera features, there's almost nobody here buying this phone that's going to actually need fast data transfer anyway, so I guess you can give it a pass.
No, and that mentality is why I constantly critique his stuff. I guess you can give it a pass, because if you don't have a Pro iPhone, then you don't need those fast data transfer speeds. I still, for the life of me, don't understand what a Pro phone is. Now, granted, yes, that moniker has been on phones for years now, but it's still, what is a Pro phone? Oh, well, you take more pictures with your phone, I guess, using the camera. I mean, these words don't really mean anything, but in situations like this, he's allowing a title to dictate the performance of the device. And if you don't have that title, if you don't have that Pro moniker, then it's okay, because you're not going to be using those things anyway. Now, we're not going to watch this whole video, but later on in the video, or it might even been earlier, he pretty much says that the camera on the iPhone 15 regular was just as good in certain situations as the camera on the iPhone 14 Pro. So it's like, hey, this camera is as good as last year's Pro device, but because it's not this year's Pro device, you won't use it the same way that a quote-unquote Pro phone user would use it. None of it makes sense, but because of reviews like that, because of simple statements like that, Apple and other companies, but we're talking about Apple here, just says, oh yeah, nobody really cares. And the guy who has the biggest audience also thinks it's fine, so why should we care? And the other thing that he mentioned as soon as he started talking is, it has the older chip, so there's no USB 3 controller. I don't understand how somebody like this just doesn't see that it's all just made up, because old iPads have USB 3 with older chips. The keynote that Apple had for the iPhone 15 made it sound like, this new A18 Bionic or whatever it was that particular year has the the USB 3 controller, so fast data transfer speeds. But it's just, I want one reporter to ask, hey, I get that you've put this controller on this chip in this iPhone, but what about the USB 3 speeds for all of these other iPads that you made over the last however many years? Why are you telling us that we need this particular chip in order to get USB 3 speeds when you haven't mentioned it at all for the last however many years for all the iPads that operate at USB 3 speeds, which includes the Pro, the Air, and the Mini. The regular iPad, I believe, operates at USB 2, but it's still, you didn't point out some different chip or different controller in those iPads that have existed for years. Why? Because iPhone users, that's why. And they just roll over, don't care, and they end up with products like this. But anyway, let's get back to this guy's video.
Maximum for charging, and they just stopped it there. And for the Pro models, it is better, particularly when it comes to the transferring of files, stopping up at 10 gigabits a second, but charging speeds are still a meager 30-ish watts and pretty much not going much more above that, and I feel like that's a big miss. And if you look at the rest of the lineup, iPads offer a combination of Thunderbolt features, so even faster transfer speeds, but not really in all iPads, only for the Pro models. And the full Thunderbolt you can pretty much only get on the top of the line MacBooks and the top of the line iPad with an.
So I don't know what he's talking about. So he points out Thunderbolt on the iPad Pro. Cool, yes, that is true. But then doesn't talk about USB 3 on the other iPads, so the Air and the Mini. Okay. Yes, does point out that he does point out that you don't get Thunderbolt on the regular iPad, which I think that's USB 2, but he's all over the place. I know I'm all over the place, but if, when you have a full studio like this, it's, hey, I need you to lay out all the facts, okay? Like everything I just mentioned a couple minutes ago about, the iPads with USB 3, it's like he kind of hinted at it, but didn't really say anything. And I don't know if he's also thinking that, well, because they put Thunderbolt on one iPad, all of them should have it. And then if it's on all the iPads, then the iPhone should have it. Which, yeah, we don't need Thunderbolt on the phone. At least not right now. I mean, cool if they put it there, but you don't really need it. Then he also said only the top of the line Macs have Thunderbolt. Also not true. The MacBook Air has Thunderbolt. So I'm not really sure what he's trying to say in any of this.
4 chip, and it really is confusing which device supports what. And I think, like, when you think about Apple, whether you like them or not, it just works kind of way of doing things. And here it's like, it just works, I guess. It's better than having just a completely different cable. But when it comes to the feature set, it's still just as confusing as it ever was. When it comes to cables, when it comes to data transfer speeds, it's just a mess. And honestly, I think it's kind of a mess on purpose.
And I'll say this, even though I don't agree with what they've done, I don't really think it's a mess. It's because of the age that we live in. If you have a question, just go look on their website. Oh, what does my device support? Oh, this. Okay. And when it comes to cables, buy reputable cables. Okay, or I say cables from reputable companies. And again, you kind of just don't really need to do too much research. Just look on the product page of the product that you have. And that's really it. But let's see what else he has to say.
I feel like they were forced to adopt USB-C and they just did it, and in certain devices that's likely a change that's going to stay. But the fact that they have improved...
And is he hinting that USB-C would go away on some devices? I mean, granted, yes, maybe the thoughts of the portless iPhone, maybe that's what he's talking about, but reverting back to Lightning, like, no, that's not going to happen. Or some other proprietary port, also not going to happen.
They're MagSafe yet again to offer even faster charging speeds this time round. I feel like that's a good indication of the inevitable portless iPhone that's definitely gonna be allowed on just European soil with no problem. It's all about, if you have a port, it has to be USB-C on a mobile device. And if you don't have a port, I feel like that's just free game. So any chance of having, for example, the Samsung super fast charging with USB-C.
Okay, and even then, it's Samsung's charging isn't that fast. Like, I'm not going to go to their website, but it's faster than the iPhone. Heck, I think maybe even faster than the Pixel. I really don't know, but there are plenty of other companies out here that have implemented faster charging in typical fashion. And, maybe he's going to say some more because it's been on, 9 days since I watched this video. Only talking about the bigger companies. So maybe he talks about OnePlus or Xiaomi or, some of the other companies that have implemented, 80, 90 watt charging, things like that. Heck, even 65 watt in I think some of the newer Zen phones. So let's see what he has to say.
Yes. I don't see that happening. I don't see them trickling down those sorts of iterative improvements that over a couple of years result in transformative change. I feel like they're just going to coast until they are confident enough that MagSafe is going to cover them and they're just going to ditch the port.
But talking about Apple coasting, like that's all that they do. I mean, it's every year we'll give you a little bit more. And honestly, most phone companies do that, but it's a little bit more of something that I'd say is relevant, like USB 2, I don't think it really is a relevant technology anymore, but they keep it around. USB-C is relevant, however, it's been around for a long time. When it comes to certain implementations of their software, other hardware things, they just slowly roll things out and stay behind. And what is the second mover effect or whatever? Yeah, they just wait and give products that are fine, but definitely behind when it comes to a lot of things.
Altogether. Like, can you imagine a world where Apple just said, you know what? F it, we're gonna just pretty much revolutionize USB-C we offer one cable, call it the iCable, the Apple cable, whatever it is.
Why would you want to do that? Like, I don't care if the port is universal, but then, actually, I do care. That's a lie. I do care. I'm grateful that it is the same port on almost all the devices that I'm looking at right now. The only reason that this one is different because it's an old microphone, so it has a micro USB port on it. Actually, sorry, it's a mini USB port, excuse me. But I don't want another proprietary protocol. An Apple cable sounds like a horrible idea. Okay, and then it's okay for your iPhone. It physically is a USB-C port. However, in order to get whatever benefits that might come along with whatever Apple's put into the phone, now you need to buy this proprietary cable. Sounds like a terrible idea. Same thing with the ports on a Mac. They're Thunderbolt. Yeah, that's a proprietary protocol, but I don't need a special cable to just use the port. Now, granted, if I want Thunderbolt speeds, yes, I'd have to get a Thunderbolt cable, but that's completely optional, and it just doesn't give the idea of me having to give Apple any more money to do anything. I can go buy a Thunderbolt cable that is not made by Apple, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. And this Apple cable would be either sold by Apple, or then they would license it the same way they licensed the Lightning protocol or whatever to the third-party vendors. Terrible idea.
And that pretty much covers you whether you want to do 40 gigabits a second over Thunderbolt, or you want to do DisplayPort output, or you want to do fast charging, or...
And I guess, I don't know if I just said it a couple seconds ago, but in order for this Apple cable to be anything, literally all of the devices would also then have to support whatever it is that he thinks would be the best thing. So 40 gigs, whether you want to call it Thunderbolt or USB 4, you'd have to literally put that into every single product. And I just don't think that's warranted. Granted, a lot of people probably don't think USB 3 is warranted. I just say, hey, USB 3 has been out for a long time. It just seems like a bare minimum. Many of your other products already have it that aren't pro devices, so seems like a logical choice. But Thunderbolt on a phone, don't really think it's needed. And then also, definitely Thunderbolt would cause the device to cost more. So, and I know I'm complaining. And if I had a camera I could move this, but I'm not going to. But even though I'm actively saying I don't want all of the ports to be the fastest they can be. When I bought a Mac Studio a while ago, I hated that if you didn't get the Ultra, the front two USB-C ports weren't Thunderbolt. And even that's kind of wrong. I know I'm speaking it, and as I was saying, I was like, that's not really what I mean. What I meant to say is that I hate that the front two USB-C ports, when you buy the Max version of the Mac Studio, they don't support video out. And I just, for the life of me, don't understand that. Thunderbolt's not a requirement for video. So these USB-C ports should be able to support video out. And they don't. You have to buy the Ultra to get six USB-C ports that support Thunderbolt. And therefore those two front ones support video out. I'm verbally acknowledging that I don't want all of the ports to be the fastest, most powerful, whatever USB-C ports, while also upset that they didn't do it on the Mac Studio. But still, an Apple cable sounds like a terrible idea.
To do all of them, one cable. It comes in the box. Yes, it's more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would I want that? And then it's, oh yes, it came in the box, but now I need more. Like, I need to go buy more of them. Like these $40, $50, $60 cables. Like, no, I don't want that.
Be a thicker cable and lose some flexibility, but wouldn't that be great? Just
no.
Cable. What cable do you have? Oh, I have the Apple cable.
How? I mean, we'd be going backwards. That's a terrible idea.
Just be one. Would it be obnoxious? Absolutely. But would it have been just objectively better than every single Android manufacturer has been doing for years?
No, because that cable would only work on Apple products. So inherently, that's worse. Just flat out worse. And he's talking about, oh, it supports fast charging, whatever. Well, I don't have the OnePlus now, but I did. And when I bought it was a OnePlus 12. In fact, I bought a 13T? No, what was it called? R. Yes, you get the SuperVOOC block, but you don't need to use the cable that came with the phone to get those fast those fast charge speeds. So you don't need a special cable. I mean, you need a cable that's certified to do what you're asking it to do, but it doesn't need to be a first party cable. And what he's describing just would be a bad idea.
And than Apple is currently doing now? Absolutely. I feel like the inherent confusion of having a single port that looks the same from the outside, that can do drastically different things depending on what's inside.
And it's hard to tell. Is that an Apple Watch? I can't really tell, but if it is, if that's an Apple Watch, which I'm not saying that it is, it's hard to tell, but if that's an Apple Watch Ultra, he's part of the problem. I guarantee you, he has that watch because of the battery life. The battery life on that thing is better than the regular Apple Watch because it's bigger. And yeah, you might just want a bigger screen. But I made a whole nother video talking about my OnePlus Watch 2 here, that in terms of the things that are important to me, which for a lot of people is battery life. This thing brand new, I believe, was either $299 or $349, whatever. But I bought it used, so I paid way less than that. And what I was comparing is that, hey, to get a watch that lasts this long, and if you wanted to get an Apple Watch, what am I trying to say? And the reason I bring it up is that when I was pointing out the battery life on this watch, I said, hey, if you want an Apple Watch to get a comparable battery experience, comparable, not even the same, comparable, you'd have to spend $800 on a watch. If you want, and so yeah, he's part of the problem if that is an Apple Watch Ultra.
Device and the cable.
Yeah, that's an Apple Watch Ultra. So yeah, he's part of the problem.
I feel like that's terrible. I feel like that's surprisingly confusing, and a ton of people might never really know what they're missing out if they have.
And that sounds like an iPhone user right there. You don't know what you're missing out. Like, you're in this realm and you're talking about all this stuff, and it's, well, but you're using an iPhone, and I know you think it's good, but it's really not. And in the realm of what we're talking about, this video, USB-C, yeah, it took him forever to put it on the device. So for all those years that he was using an iPhone, he was missing out. But he stuck with it. Which iPhone does he have, a Pro or a regular? I have no idea. I really don't. But he's still missing out.
That cable, or if they have a lower end iPhone, they just think, oh, it's USB-C, it's going to do the same. And yeah, I feel like that's terrible. I feel like Apple had a golden opportunity and they just decided, you know what, we're good. And I feel like that's not good enough. Okay.
But you still buy their stuff.
The short one. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to read an article about this entire topic, we'll leave that down in the description, as we pretty much just like to think about these sorts of things and how they can impact the future of mobile devices. Okay, that's been a great one, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.
Cool. Yeah, so again, I spent years complaining about the fact that USB-C was not on the iPhone. I do wish that USB 3 was on the regular iPhone. Not that I own one anymore, but for there to be an Apple cable, I feel like would be a step backwards. Like, oh, does this Apple cable work on my non-Apple products? No, or maybe it does, and you just don't get the full benefit of the stuff. Then it's, hey, I have this non-Apple cable. Does it give me the full benefits of the Apple cable? No. So now, do I need to buy the Apple cable? Just bad idea. So that's all I have to say.